The Treasury Minister, John Glenn, said yesterday that you were considering overruling the independent pay review bodies if they recommend too high a pay settlement, even if that's lower than the actual inflation rate. Is that true? Is it part of your plan potentially not to accept the independent pay review body recommendations on pay?
Well, I just pick up where you started in that, talking about the strikes, which I have found extremely disappointing because I know how
that you find them disappointing,
the NHS
but just on the point about pay, though. Just on the point about pay.
I will come to that and give me 1 second.
Okay. If the pay review bodies say more than 6% pay rises this year, will you agree to that?
So I'm not going to preempt the whole pay review body process. So what happens is the pay review body makes recommendations to government. Government considers those and then responds to those. We've received some of the pay review body sets of recommendations. There are others who've yet to report back to government. Government
and
generally
some
looks
of them
at
are
these
saying
things
6% plus, aren't they?
So I'm not going to preempt the government response to that. Well, actually, there's a number of pay review bodies, different parts of the public sector. Some have reported back, others haven't. Government has to look at public sector pay and pay in the round. And it makes sense for us to do that because we have to make responsible decisions as government.
I mean, nobody...
Well, I didn't for a moment say that. I mean, let's be clear. We take the advice and recommendations from the pay review bodies. But you all understand that government has to be responsible with the public finances. That's why I can't say here and now what the outcome of the whole process is going to be. We know we have a number one priority of bringing down inflation. And actually the job in government and job of Prime Minister is to make tough decisions.
Do you think the NHS is fit for purpose?
So I think that we are doing the right thing in investing a huge amount in our health service. We're spending over £150 billion a year. Well, actually, and one thing that hasn't been pulled out in what you've quoted from that report is the praise for the National Health Service as being a very efficient service, making really good use of that huge investment that we put into the National Health Service. We have been recruiting more doctors and nurses into the health service.
It's not really going to help,
so we have...
You're telling this programme that you may end up paying them less than inflation and less than the pay review body recommends?
That's not what I'm saying. What I was just confirming is that the process is the pay review body reports back and then government responds.
Can junior doctors, can police service, can teachers expect between 6 and 6.5% has been recommended by the public sector pay review bodies?
So I'm not going to preempt the outcome of the government's response to the pay review bodies.
But when your colleagues, and indeed you have sat there previously, and we've talked about percentage pay increases, you've always said we have to abide by what the independent pay review bodies suggest to us.
I don't believe that is what we've always said. What we always say, usually say, and certainly what I've said in the past, I believe, on this, is that we look at the recommendations from the pay review bodies. It's very important that they provide us with that
chairman
evidence.
is chosen by the Prime Minister and you tell them what the budgets are.
So what's
the point?
The health service in Britain is second worst of all those examined for saving lives. Why?
So actually, this relates to what we were literally just talking about, the importance of us being able to diagnose people early. So one of the reasons why we know that we have challenges in making sure that people recover well from whether it's cancer or other major conditions.
It's the worst at saving stroke victims and the second worst at saving heart attack sufferers. So while I appreciate what you're saying about the very severe condition of cancer, and indeed I lost my father to lung cancer, so it has personal relevance, I do have to refer you back to we are the worst at saving stroke victims on the planet and second worst at saving heart attack sufferers among developed nations. This is shambolic, Minister.
You're talking about screening to us this morning. One of the biggest problems the NHS has at the moment is basically staffing. Too many vacancies, people leaving, unhappy with their jobs, job dissatisfaction, not happy with their pay. And this week you are due to publish plans to tackle the staffing crisis. What are you going to do?
You're absolutely right that later this week we're going to publish a long-term workforce plan for the National Health Service. So this is a historic step we're going to be taking to secure the future of the NHS.
How is Rishi Sunak planning to get more doctors and nurses through the door when we haven't got any money to give them?
Well, actually, at the moment, we are spending record amounts on our National Health Service. We're spending around £150 billion a year. the NHS was given at the last budget an extra 14 million for healthcare over the next 2 years. We know that there are these huge pressures on our National Health Service, so that's why we're putting in extra investment to help it recover from the pandemic.
We're talking about more doctors, more nurses, but there are more people who need treatment.
Clearly investment in the workforce is part of the steps that we are taking to mean that we can treat more people as more people come forward. We know that we also need to do things differently in our health service.
Fewer people are going in. Fewer people will be in the situation that Sarah Ferguson was in, where she went for her mammogram. Even in London alone, around 12,000 fewer women had that breast screening. They were estimated to have missed out because of this new open invitations system. 1 in 20 women who do not have a mammogram miss out because of that system. You're not increasing the numbers. Unfortunately, we are missing mammograms, and as a result, more women will get to the position where they need treatment but won't know.
So I spoke to a number of breast cancer charities who do a fantastic job campaigning and supporting women with breast cancer about exactly this very recently.
Final thought, the Prime Minister yesterday telling people that they should hold their nerve over their mortgage payments going up. You're looking forward to saying that on the doorstep when you're campaighing for the next election?
I think it's been slightly misquoted on that, but I think overall his point is that we as a country we know that it's going to take time for us to bring inflation down. It's his number one priority. Clearly, it's one of the 5 priorities that he set out was to halve
so we just need to inflation, hold our nerve, is that what
along with growing the economy, reducing our debt, cutting our waiting lists and stopping the boats. You'll have heard that those are 5 priorities that we have to do. But inflation is not going to come down overnight. This is hard work that we have to do as a country.
The NHS turns 75. The much-loved British institution has sadly seen better days. That is correct, isn't it?
Well, we know that the NHS has had a very tough time through the pandemic. It was the worst pandemic for a century.
Well, the whole world had
the majority of the NHS... That's true, and many health systems around the world are facing huge challenges, and people, indeed, in many places, waiting for treatment. That's one reason why one of the Prime Minister's 5 priorities is to cut waiting lists. We're working very hard on that hand in hand with the NHS to bring down those waiting times.
If you look at cataracts since COVID, the drop in the number of operations is 47% in Great Britain. It's 3% in Germany. The hip replacement is 46% in Great Britain. It's 3% in Denmark. I could go on. I'll give you one more. A new knee, it's 68% drop in the United Kingdom. It's 4% in Finland. By every measure, it's failing. The Conservatives are failing with the NHS, aren't they?
So I will challenge that.